I am Harunobu Adachi, descendant of the legendary Yoshinobu Adachi.
When the Khan invaded Tsushima, he made it clear he had no intentions to follow any code of honor after lighting Harunobu Adachi on fire and beheading him without saying a word. Really, the Khan seemed almost disgusted with the fact that the samurai expected respect or honor from the Mongols at all in the moment. However, after destroying nearly all of Tsushima's samurai forces, Khotun would capture Lord Shimada and attempt to bargain with him. He shows Shimada a great deal of respect here and even properly introduces himself to Shimada. Khotun, cousin of Kublai and grandson of Genghis.
I am Khotun, cousin of Kublai, grandson of Genghis. Brother, you are a warrior. I can see that. You trained your whole life for this. And you have won battles that lesser men have called unwinnable, yes? But while you were sharpening your sword, do you know how I prepared for today? I learned. I know your language, your traditions, your beliefs. Which villages to tame and which to burn. So I'll ask you once again, samurai, do you surrender?
Khotun makes it clear he is more than prepared to conquer Tsushima. He studied them and their people for what has to have been years before making his aggressive assault on Komoda Beach. Khotun's likely plan from here was to conquer Tsushima and use it as a sort of pit stop to refuel, add more soldiers to his army, and prepare for the real goal, an invasion of mainland Japan. However, before Khotun could do that, he would have to fully control Tsushima, which he very nearly succeeded in doing if it weren't for a few crucial errors. Before I talk about those errors, however, I want to talk about what Khotun did well that led to his near victory, starting with his patience and cunning. Khotun studied the island of Tsushima for years before he invaded. He learned their language, culture, traditions, politics, and history. He learned who he could best manipulate and sway to his side, like Ryuzo and the Straw Hats. He learned which villages and people to slaughter first, and he knew when to use fear and when to negotiate. Again, he even tries to convince Shimada to call a surrender through negotiations, though I think the Khan tried too hard to do this and underestimated Shimada's pride, but again, I'll get back to that. Khotun's willingness to learn nearly all of Tsushima's nuances helped to give him a major advantage. The Khan is even willing to learn from his losses, take and use the strategies his opponents use against them. Like when Jin poisoned the Mongols, sure, that won Jin the battle and struck a huge blow to the Mongol forces, but Khotun didn't flinch. He adapted, learned how to recreate the poison, and then used it against Tsushima as soon as he could, never losing his temper, never not planning his next step. Combine his cunning, intelligence, and willingness to adapt with his downright brutal ferocity in his combat philosophy, and you have a near-perfect conqueror, unrestricted from any honor code or rules, allowing him to use any tactic he can think of to get what he wants. Enslavement, torture, fire, poison, you name it, the Khan can and likely has done it. Despite the Khan's massive success in the initial invasion on Komoda Beach, he still had a few major obstacles to overcome before he could call the invasion complete. Overthrowing the remaining forces of Tsushima, Shimada's stubbornness and refusal to surrender his armies, and of course, the ghost, Jin Sakai. Jin's survival of Komoda Beach and survival after his first fight with the Khan on the bridge was both unfortunate and unpredictable to Khotun Khan. The Khan really had no way of planning or preparing for Jin to survive either encounter, let alone both. He also had no way of knowing that Jin would eventually go on to abandon his code and lead a rebellion of people who also cared little for honor or code so long as it meant protecting their home. Regardless of this, however, the Khan massively mismanaged the situation after learning of Jin's survival and updated moral compass. After learning of Jin surviving and making quite the name for himself, the Khan further attempts to leverage that against Shimura, hoping to convince Lord Shimura to surrender for the safety of Jin and Shimura's family. Again, however, Shimura doesn't break. Jin's survival only fuels Lord Shimura's resilience, trusting that Jin will do whatever it takes to turn the tides against the Mongols. The Khan's stubbornness and refusal to simply kill Lord Shimura bought Jin enough time to eventually free his uncle and reignite a full-blown war over the control of the island. Jin's reputation as the Ghost has put him into a position of great power and respect, convincing even the people of Yarikawa to join his side despite their rough history with clans Shimura and Sakai. This crucial turning point for the resistance was a massive oversight from Khotun, as he either didn't know about Yarikawa's disdain for Shimura and thus didn't bother with them, or he did know of their rugged history and opted against turning them against each other, rather choosing to invade Yarikawa by force. To put simply, Khotun was either ignorant and failed to learn about a major piece of Tsushima history, or he was stupid and chose not to recruit Yarikawa as soon as he could. I mean, it's very likely that Yarikawa could have been swayed to join the Mongols so long as Khotun promised them revenge and or control over Shimura and his resources. The two sides absolutely hate each other, and it took Jin single-handedly defending the people of Yarikawa against the Mongols and proving he's not picking any side other than Tsushima. Jin had to rid himself of his honor and put his life on the line to have a chance at convincing Yarikawa to fight alongside him and Shimura. So surely it would have been easier for the Khan to manipulate their hatred against Shimura had the Khan had prior knowledge of this conflict, though I'm almost certain the Khan just didn't know, as if he had, I'm very confident he would have handled Yarikawa much differently than he did. Regardless, the Khan failed to take control of Yarikawa and lost the battle there, as his men were completely unprepared for Jin's guerrilla tactics the Mongols should be plenty familiar with. The fear-mongering, the fire, the ambushing, nearly all of these tactics are used by the Khan's armies, which brings me to my next point. Why wasn't Khotun and the Mongols prepared to fight an opponent who fights just as dirty as they do? Khotun must have been extremely confident that none of the samurai or people of Tsushima would abandon their ways of honor, since neither he nor his armies were prepared for any of the samurai to fight just as ruthlessly as they do. Now, to an extent, he was correct. He wiped out nearly every samurai in Tsushima during the battle on Komoda Beach, using their code of honor against them, with only Lord Shimura and Jin surviving, with Jin being the unpredictable factor and eventual foil to the Khan's plans. Even further, Lord Shimura refused to abandon his ways, no matter the cost, no matter the deaths, all the way up to the end of the story, even culminating in his own death, depending on what ending you chose. So, while Khotun was mostly correct to assume that the samurai would never abandon their code, he still made a major mistake by refusing to prepare his men to fight an opponent as dangerous as themselves. This lack of preparation is a major reason Jin was so successful in fear-mongering the Mongols. They had no clue how to fight back against Jin and had no way of knowing what Jin would try to do next. The fear of the unknown, the fear of unpredictability, drove many in the Khan's armies to simply run and hide to protect themselves rather than stay and fight something they were simply unprepared for. If you want to learn more about how fear played a role into the Khan's downfall, I recommend watching my previous video talking all about fear and its use in Ghost of Tsushima. It'll be up in the top right corner of your screen now, and linked in the description below if you are interested. The Khan himself was also underprepared for Jin's guerrilla tactics, so much so that Jin eventually gained the upper hand and had Khotun chasing Jin and his tactics in an attempt to keep up with Jin's evolving warfare. This is most evident when Jin used Wolfsbane to poison the Mongol camp and devastate them overnight. It was only after the Khan suffered this major loss where he would copy Jin's tactic and use the poison against Tsushima after. It was until this point where Jin was learning the Khan's tactics, copying them to try and gain the upper hand, but now it was Jin who had the tactical advantages, with the Khan and his armies trying to keep up. This situation would have been avoidable, however, as the Khan had one massive chance to shut down Jin and the rebellion. He simply could have just killed Jin the moment he had him and Taka captured. However, Khotun chose instead to, again, try to negotiate and push Jin to call a surrender and join the Mongols, instead choosing to kill Taka to force Jin's hand. Khotun was trying to get an easy victory here, knowing that whatever Jin says, his followers will stand by him. So if Jin says to give up and join the Mongols, then the Khan wouldn't have to spend more resources or men on fighting and trying to force compliance. However, the Khan should know by his experience with Lord Shimada that Jin would be no different. He should have just ended Jin's life right then and there, and then attempted to beat the rest of Jin's followers by force, while they would be demoralized by losing the ghost. Unfortunately, the Khan was either too stubborn to pour more resources into the Tsushima conflict, or he knew his armies by this point may have been spread too thin to handle the remaining forces of Tsushima. Either way, the Khan made a poor decision by letting Jin live long enough to escape, and with newfound anger and hatred for him and his forces, eventually leading to losing Tsushima, losing the war, and eventually losing his life. While the Khan was a cunning and fierce opponent, making for one of the more memorable gaming antagonists I've been fortunate enough to experience, he, like nearly all antagonists, fell just shy of his goals. His stubbornness and poor handling of Jin's uprisal as the Ghost led him to his death before he ever had the chance to step foot onto mainland Japan. The way he and Jin mirrored each other throughout the story, consistently pushing each other to adapt and testing the limits of each other's minds through their war, was by far one of, if not my favorite part about the story and Khotun Khan as an antagonist. I'm currently playing New Game Plus in preparation for Ghost of Yotei's release, and I'm still just as invested in the story as I was when I played it for the first time. I can't wait for Ghost of Yotei and to see how it compares to Ghost of Tsushima in every way. I don't know if Ghost of Yotei can recreate the feeling I had getting Ghost Dance for the first time, but we'll see what innovations it has in store soon. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Consider becoming a member by hitting that join button too, but there's no pressure as your viewership is more than enough for me. For those of you wondering where the hell I have been the last month and a half, let me start by saying sorry. I had no intention of taking this long to get this video out. I wanted to get this video out like 2 weeks ago and maybe 3 weeks ago now, but only got around to it now. This mostly happened after a tough stretch of time where I've been dealing with some mental health problems, but after some time with friends and family, I've been feeling better and much more motivated to lock in on the content creation again. I'd like to say to expect me to return to fully consistent uploads again, hopefully every 2 weeks, but I can't guarantee that will be the case right now, not until I have the completed artwork for the upcoming channel changes I have planned. I need to get in touch with my artist and figure out a timeline for all of that still, so there may be a delay with one or a few of the next videos as the channel begins to transition into the new designs and style. That said, however, I appreciate all the love, support, and patience from you guys as I continue to push through life and express my love for video games and writing through this channel. I love you guys so much. Thanks for all the love and support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.